You kids and your fancy technicolor electronical doodads. Well, my day, optics meant iron sights. And the back peep sight, it flipped up and down and had a bigger hole for nighttime and a little one for daytime. And that was fancy, I'm telling you. Fancy, high technical. Good morning, y'all. Whether it's morning where you are or not, it's morning somewhere. Now, of course, optics have changed. Optics have evolved since my day in the service, where, yes, the only thing we had were iron sights. We didn't have all the fancy lasers and all the doodads and knickknacks that they do on military rifles now. Well, they've not only improved for the military side of the house, but also for the civilian sector. So for all of us who believe in the Second Amendment, believe in taking care of our families and protecting them, and protecting our neighbors and protecting our country from whomever it might need protecting from, optics have improved for us as well. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that today. And of course, you have to train a little bit differently for different types of optics. When you're talking about using iron sights, of course, you've generally got the whole one eye closed thing, and or even iron sights on a pistol where you're trying to focus and keep both eyes open. You want to put your focus on the front sight post, let the rear sights kind of blur out, and let your target kind of blur out. By the way, yes, Internet RSOs, we are clear and empty. But when you go to an optic, it's very different. Electronic optics are very, very different. You don't want to focus on that dot. You don't want to focus on that reticle. You want to put your focus on that target and then place your reticle or your dot, superimpose it over that target. So it's a very different ball game. Now of course, optics are great. I'm getting into pistol optics myself. I've only been training with them for a few months, so when I hear people talk about, anybody that says they can shoot better with iron sights than with optics is a damn liar. No, it's somebody who hasn't trained with optics, but has trained extensively with iron sights. So once I train myself and adapt to being able to, my biggest thing is, again, I'm still focusing on that reticle, on that dot, and not on my target and superimposing that dot. So I'm trying to shift my focus, and it's a task. I'll tell you that. It's a task. But you want to look at what are you using the optic for? Okay. And when you're talking about pistol optics in particular, you have to talk about the footprint. What footprint of optic is that pistol able to use, and what footprint of optic is, well, that optic. And especially in the beginning, you're going to make some mistakes because there are so many different footprints that most of us really don't understand. We know some basic words. We know Trijicon RMR. We know, we know there's a doctor optic. What that means, I have no idea, aside from different size, different patterns, different plates, different, that's about as far as I go. And I've may have made a mistake or two with an optic in the gun. One important thing, though, that I do want to stress to everybody, especially with pistols, well, and with rifles for that matter, if you're going to get into the optics game, you still need to train with your iron sights. If you can't use iron sights, my opinion, you have no business with an optic. Because it's electronic, brother. It goes down. It breaks. Batteries die. Uh, Glasses crack. Things happen. Those iron sights, unless Glock made them, are still going to be there for you. And then that's going to be what you have to rely on. And if you don't know how to use them, brother, you are screwed. And by screwed, I mean DED, dead as hell. And that's not what we want for you. I want you to be able to subscribe to my videos and comment and like. Um, so the first one I'm going to talk about, so this is the Vortex Viper. And Vortex Viper, he is a pretty little guy. If you've ever read reviews on him, he does really well. And I have used him. I actually bought him for him, but he didn't fit. There's my screw up. And ended up with him on him. Yes, we're clear. So he is a 6 MOA red dot. And depending on, let's see if I can get in there where you can see it. Hey, there it is. Okay, so it's a 6 MOA red dot. So depending on the brightness level that you leave him at, you're talking about between 150 hours and 30,000 hours of battery life. He's got 10 brightness setting. He is a doctor or Noblex footprint. What a Noblex footprint is, hell if I know. Look it up if you feel like it. Otherwise, just know, will your gun take it or will it not? And that can save you a bit of money. Now, personally, I'll probably end up using him on something later, but there were a couple of drawbacks with him. Now, of course, like most pistol optics, he is a bottom battery mount. Doesn't bother me a whole lot. It just means that if the battery goes out, you do have to take the optic off. And you need to at least check the zero once you put an optic back on, because it could change a little bit. So you may need to re-zero a little bit. My biggest drawbacks with this one were, in order to adjust, you actually have to, there are 2 locks here. You have to unlock, adjust, relock, install the optic, shoot it, remove the optic, unlock, adjust, relock, reinstall. Just a huge pain in the ass, which I finally got it zeroed and zeroed well. But then this was also going on my EDC. And for an EDC, everyday carry, if you need it, once you draw it from the holster, once you pull it off the nightstand, that gun needs to be able to go to work. And I don't want to have to reach over and turn the optic on. This is not an auto on. It is not shake awake. You do have to hit a button to turn it on. And not something I feel like dealing with. And if I ever have to zero it again, really didn't feel like dealing with that. It is very low profile. It sets in nice and low so that you can't co-witness with it. And that's great. And of course, Vortex, we know they make great stuff. So no problems there. So what I did end up getting for my Canik Mate SFX was the Swamp Fox Sentinel. Oh, no, Vortex Viper, by the way, yes, you can get them a lot cheaper, but they are still retailing this guy at $349. So $350 for this guy. I didn't pay $350 for it. So the Swamp Fox Sentinel, he retails for about $249. He is an ultra, I mean, look at that guy. He is small. And for such a big gun, that is very, yes, I'm flagging myself. No, I don't care. Little bit, he's a narrower window than there's that dot again. a narrower window than the Viper, about the same height though. So, uh, and he's got different variations. So there's the auto brightness adapt, which is always on, either in red or in green. I'm not a huge fan of that just because the always on thing doesn't bother me a bit, but that auto brightness, I don't need my optic to tell me how bright it thinks it should be. That's my call. And that depends on a lot of factors, not just ambient light. What's the background that I'm shooting into? What's my eyesight like? How well can I actually see things? Is there one point that has a lot of glare coming in? There are a lot of different factors that, in order to deal with, I don't need my optic telling me what I need to do. I need to tell it what it needs to do. There's also a manual adjust that is shake awake, available in red dot or green. This is the manual adjust. With the shake awake, he is, as you can see, as soon as I find it, in red. And I'm so jealous that you guys get to see the actual big, pretty red dot. Uh, Due to my astigmatism, I don't see a dot. I see this great little starburst going all over the place, and it sucks. It is a 3M away. They put a 2 year on the battery life, 10 brightness settings. It's a Shield RMSC footprint. Why a gun this big would take such small optics is because of that guy right there, which is your loaded chamber indicator that I have never used a day in my life. But so then, if I'm not using the Vortex Viper on my EDC, what am I using? Well, I switched him out for it. This is a brand new from Viridian Weapon Technologies. This is the RFX 35. You can see right there. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can't. I don't know. This is the RFX 35. They make a 15, a 25, and a 35, of course. Bigger number, bigger optic. This guy is an RMR, Trijicon RMR footprint, and they only make them with a green dot, which I actually really love. Look at the size of that window, dude. I mean, compare. I mean, that's side by side. That is a huge, that's a lot of real estate to be able to look through. He's still a 3M away. They retail for about $289. I didn't pay $289. Don't ever buy it from the manufacturer's website. Uh, Guys like Aim Surplus always has really good deals on optics, and actually where I got this guy for only $6.99. Yes, hell of a sale on Shadow Systems that day. But it has 8 brightness settings plus 2 night vision settings. Runs for about 30 plus hours, give or take, depending on, of course, how many times you shake him awake and what brightness level you've got him set on. So far, I'm really digging it. And the reason I went with green is, and research shows that I'm actually right, which is why a lot of your optics companies are beginning to either switch off to a green dot or green reticle, or they are making options where they didn't make them before. Is that the human eye can actually pick up green much better than it can red. Red and blue are pretty well at the top and bottom ends of the spectrum. Green's right there in the center. So the eye is actually able to acquire it much faster, much easier. And I got to tell you, loving this guy. Absolutely, positively loving him. And like I said, you've got that big RMR on him. So now, rifles. So when I got my very first civilian AR, well, I was still focused more on iron sights and wasn't experienced with civilian optics and stuff like that. So I got the Overlord Tactical. This guy is called the Mogadishu Mile. All right, named in honor of the Battle of Mogadishu, which was the first time that the military really showcased using a lot of their optics and really fought heavily and hardcore on it. He's a 3 MOA red dot, um, 5 green settings, 5 red settings. Of course, I always use the green. Now, again, because of my astigmatism, I don't see a dot. So, one thing, if you're shooting a red dot with a rifle, um, one thing that you can do to help clear that up if you have an astigmatism is flip up your rear pop-up aperture, switch to the smaller aperture there, and view the dot through it. And what it does, it takes a lot of that outlying garbage, that starburst, and it cleans it up. It blocks it off so that you don't see that. And it really does help. It really does. It was something that I had to Google. And as you can see, really nice bright green dot. And we'll switch off to the red. Really, really nice, really clear glass. This guy, I mean, I have beat the absolute crap out of him. He actually just came off. He's been on 2 different rifles. He was also on my wife's rifle there for a while. He has had the crap beat out of him. He has run absolutely flawlessly. And he was $50. Okay. Just saying. You don't have to spend $2,000 for an optic. Frankly, I got $2,000 for an optic. So he runs really well. So he was originally on my rifle, which is now my son's rifle. So he is now running, and this is from CT Optics. This is CT Optics ACOG. So the reticle, it's actually not bad. So not sure if we're going to be able to see it in there, if I can get the right angle with the camera. No, doesn't look like it. I'm going to pick it up for a minute, see if we can see in there. There we go, just a little bit, not really. So one of the drawbacks, of course, with ACOGs, and this is a 4X, so one of the drawbacks with optics like this is that you have a very short eye relief. So whereas with a red dot, you have an unlimited eye relief, you can have that thing absolutely as far away as you want to, or you can put it right next to your eye if you want. There's no reason it should be there. With these guys, you've generally only got about 2.5 to 3 inches of eye relief. So you can see how he's set all the way back so that, I mean, you literally have to be this close to be able to catch him. And that's pretty close, especially if you're used to firing iron sights to begin with and using the old nose to the charging handle. So you're actually set back a little further from that. So not too bad, in my opinion. Did he cost $1,000? No. No. In fact, he retails probably right around $120, $130. I think I picked him up for about $100. But he absolutely does what he needs to do. Is it Trijicon level? No. Has he taken an absolute beating? Hell yes, he has. And still runs like a champ. My son absolutely loves him. So now, what did I switch my wife off to? So I switched. I switched Mogadishu Mile off of that rifle and put it on my wife's rifle. But I just took that off the wife's rifle not too long ago, which means she's got a new optic. Which, enter, yes, she is pretty in pink, but don't piss her off. So this is the Swamp Fox Tryhawk. All right, she is a 3X optic. She does have the pretty red. She comes in red or green reticle. Me, again, I decided I'm going to switch off to the greens because they are much easier to pick up. She has an 8+2, the brightness setting. So 8 naked eye, 2 night vision settings, about 3,000 hours runtime, and it is shake awake, which, again, really, really digging. Let me see if I can get a little closer and get you into seeing that. Really nice reticle once you actually get in there and see it. Swamp Fox, I find, really does some really good optics. Again, I'm running one of them on Mechanic Mate. I just switched off to putting one on hers. It's a 3X powered optic. She's really digging it, really happy with it. So happy anniversary, baby. Now, on mine, I decided to go with an LPVO. So I'm running, and you can kind of tell by my setup here, I'm running a very different setup. For starters, and yes, all the rifles were clear, including this one. For starters, you'll notice mine's a left-handed rifle. So, But, so this is the True Glow, True Bright series, the 30 series. This is the TG8516TL, like you're going to remember any of that shit. Just True Glow 30 series. True Glow LPVO. All right. So this is available in 1-4 or 1-6. This particular one, I went with the 1-6, and it actually MSRP's right around $239. Again, I did not pay $239 for this optic, but she has been really, really solid. I'm here to tell you, and yes, I have notes that I'm looking at because old senile shit goes in and out, and I want you guys to have as much information as you can. So now this LPVO, this is a second focal plane optic. And what that means, I know you hear sometimes first focal plane, second focal plane. What's the best? You know what? What's the best is up to you. Just like what's the best optic? That's up to you. What are you doing with a rifle? What are you doing with a gun? Which one plays better to your strengths? Again, I went 1-6 instead of 1-4. I could have easily gone 1-4. I went with the, this has both green and red brightness adjustments. I always switch it off to green. Okay, so first focal plane, second focal plane. What that means is with the first focal plane, the reticle is going to be up in this portion. It's going to be forward of the erector assembly, so that when you adjust, and this is a real easy adjustment, when you adjust and zoom in, zoom out, your reticle zooms in, gets bigger, zooms out, gets smaller, along with your magnification. This is a second focal plane. Okay, so the reticle is actually back here behind the erector assembly. So as I zoom in and zoom out, and let's see if I can actually get that. Let's see if I can actually show that to you. I kind of doubt it, but I might get super duper lucky. Okay, so as I zoom in and out, my reticle does not change. My reticle doesn't get any bigger. My reticle doesn't get any smaller. It just drops out of the picture because I can't hold the damn rifle steady. Now me, I really don't care if my reticle grows along with my... Ooh, it's getting bright. If my reticle gets any bigger, as I magnify it. Frankly, I've kind of gotten used to it. I wouldn't mind trying a first focal plane optic just to see if, you know what, maybe I would like that better. Maybe I do want my reticle to grow. Or maybe I just still won't give a shit. And then, of course, so I've got one more. The eye relief on mine, on the LPVO, is actually quite a bit longer. So mine has a 4-inch eye relief. These two both have between about a 2.5 and a 3-inch eye relief. Which, again, if you're used to firing iron sights with an M16 or M4, nose to the charging handle, the way you're supposed to be, that 2.5, 3 inches is actually a pretty long distance. Now, if you're used to shooting a red dot, 2.5, 3 inches, not so much distance. And then we get to the Panzer BP-12, and we are clear. And with this guy, I've just got, I mean, this is, dude, I'm talking about the absolute bare bones, most basic. Let's find the reticle, not the buttstock. Can we find a reticle? Can we see it? Well, at any rate, so this is just a very, very bare bones optic. Had it there for a second. So he's got several different settings for several different types of optics, from dots to crosshairs to red circle of death to green circle of death. And believe it or not, this guy cost me like $35 on eBay over 2 years ago. And still have never had to change the battery out. Still does absolutely great. And again, I'm running him on a 12-gauge shotgun. So the he's definitely taking quite a bit of a beating. So, yeah, there's that. So optics are fun. Optics are great. Optics don't have to cost you an arm and a fucking leg. Okay? I don't know about you. I don't have Tryhawk money. I don't have EOTech money. Tryhawk and EOTech are great. Absolutely. If you've got that kind of cash and you feel like putting it in on optic, outstanding. Now, am I saying to get the cheapest piece of crap optic that you can? No. What I'm saying is do your research, do your homework, try out some different things. Still try and use some sort of a reputable company, even though I don't always. Someone who, I mean, I got really good optics for really good prices. Whereas I'm not spending $500 for an optic. I'm not spending $1,000 for an optic. But when I need my optic, it's there. On the other hand, and I will stress this again, if you are just getting into firearms, please do not go straight out, buy an optic, throw it on the gun, and start shooting. Take your time, learn how to use your iron sights, because one day, mark my word, one day, I don't care how much maintenance you do, I don't care how often you change the batteries out, I don't care how careful you are, one day that optic is not going to be there. And you are going to have to rely on a sighting system that you don't know how to use, and you are going to be screwed. And you had better hope and pray that no one is depending on you that day, like your wife, like your kids, like your husband. Women, you carry guns and optics too. Now, I've heard, there are ups and downs for everything. One of the drawbacks that one of the complaints I've heard with optics is in concealed carry. Well, some of them are so big, and you get one small enough to conceal carry with, and now you can't see through it because it's this tiny. Okay, well, I can see through this just fine, but I carry this guy concealed 5 days a week, and I don't have any problems keeping them concealed. Oh, by the time you find the little dot, I've already shot the guy 6 times with my iron sights. That's because you didn't train with your optic. So train with your optic, and you can find the optic. Okay? Same thing. You pull them up, there it is. Pull them up, there it is. You pull them up, there it is. You did it with your iron sights, I guarantee it. So why not do it with your optic? But make sure you train with your iron sights first, then train with your optic, then train with both of them. So every time I go to the range, I shoot one round optic, I shoot one round iron sight. Or I'll shoot one magazine optic and one magazine iron sight. And I still shoot better iron sight. But, folks, I have been long-winded enough for one night. Please be careful, take care, pay attention to what your local politicians are doing, and put your foot in their ass or on the back of their necks, whatever is applicable. Protect each other, protect your rights. Have a good night.